Great now, so it shouldn't
There we go. We are good.
Really?
I think I accepted it like too fast or something, and it's like, okay. Yay! All right. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to, again, the Rising She podcast series, which we're super, super excited to have Stephanie here with us tonight. If you're probably familiar with her because she's with the Spiritual Boss Babes, an amazing group that she has built, which is so awesome. And obviously, you guys know this is your space for weekly Wednesday night woo-woo wisdom from guest speakers all over the world. And here is Stephanie. Oh my gosh, how do you say your last name? Bellinger?
Bellinger.
Okay. So Stephanie's a spiritual mindset and success coach for female entrepreneurs, and she's the creator of the Spiritual Boss Babe brand. And she also happens to make these gorgeous, amazing crystals. Oh my God. I
Wow.
They're so
I love it.
so beautiful. So welcome, Stephanie. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I never did anything like this before with like a group of people. It's cool.
Thank you.
We like to do things in groups and tribes.
Yeah.
I love it. So we ask every single woman that comes on this podcast this beginning question. And Stephanie, what do you love about being a woman?
What do I love about being a woman? Ooh, that's a good question. There's a lot of things I love about being a woman, but mostly I would say my creative energy, my creativity, and the way that I channel that through all of the things that I do. Not saying men can't be creative, but I feel like I definitely channel like that divine feminine creative energy through my jewelry, through everything else I do. So
Yes. I feel like that's been I guess a consistent answer, but it's been coming about in different ways. But all of the women that come on, they're like, yeah, just the ability to create and birth ideas and just be more of a natural creator and nurturer because we are women and it just kind of comes more naturally. So yeah, I love that. So you really help women, I feel like, step into this new space, of whether it's like being an entrepreneur or like a better mindset or just having more confidence in themselves. And we wanted to know, so what was like the catalyst to your breakthrough? Like, were you doing like the 9-to-5 for a while? Were you stuck in like this really crappy job and you were like, no, there's something bigger, there's something stirring that's pulling me away from here? Like, how did that look for you on your journey?
Well, I started working at a very young age. I was like 14 when I got my first job. I left. We had this program in school where we got to leave school early to go to work. So I started working like the office job very young, and I quickly realized that it was not for me. But during that time, I was actually in a really abusive relationship. And I didn't see outside the box completely yet. So once I ended that, I started to follow my dream, which was at the time being a makeup artist. And I wanted to move to New York City. Like that was my big dream, to move to New York and be this celebrity makeup artist. The youngest celebrity makeup artist was my dream. I don't know why, but like I was only 19 at the time. So I moved to New York. I manifested that pretty quickly. And I still was working in office jobs then when I first moved there. And I was like just constantly like not present at these office jobs. I just wasn't present.
Yeah.
So I got fired from this first job that I got in New York. And I actually the same day was contacted by this nightclub that I used to go to and like promote for. So funny, guys, my party days. So they contacted me the same day and they were like, hey, we need someone to help like work the door and stuff like on the weekends. And I was like, all right, fine. Like, this is awesome. Like, I love like meeting people and going out. So I was supported right away. And I realized like, man, I was making so much more money in 2 days than I would at a 9-to-5. Even though it wasn't my thing, I was like, okay, I need to continue getting jobs like this while I build my shit. But the things that I was doing kept evolving, like from makeup. Then since I was in the nightlife scene, this was like 10 years ago. I feel old saying that, but so since I was in the nightlife scene, I transitioned from doing makeup to designing bras and corsets and I bedazzled these bras and corsets with like 1,000 Swarovski crystals. And I actually gave one to Lady Gaga and Kim Kardashian.
Oh my God.
Cool.
But so I transitioned to that, and like I was always doing my side job, which was either bartending actually, or like working at that club for a while before I left there. It wasn't really like, it was kind of a toxic environment, not gonna lie, you know what I mean? But it got me through that stage of my life, and it was a lot of fun, and I met a lot of people, and you live and you learn from those nights of drinking and stuff. But anyway, going down the line, I started personal training. I'm not trying to tell you guys my whole life story. Like I'm trying to summarize it.
This is great.
So after I was bartending, I was working at the club, and when I was bartending at this one place in New York City, it wasn't a club, it was like a pool hall actually. And around that time I was like, man, I kind of want to do personal training. Like I always said that I would do, I always said to myself, if my art stuff didn't work out, then I want to help people with health and fitness. But in the back of my head, I never really wanted to be a trainer. I just like wanted to help people. So I said this, and the same week, all of these personal trainers walked into my job, and I was their waitress. I waitressed and bartended there. So I was like, oh my God, you guys, like, I want to be a personal trainer. And they hired me right on the spot pretty much, and like paid for my certifications.
Wow.
Once I started my personal training, I realized, oh my God, like I'm meant to help people. This is what I'm on the right track. Like I'm meant to help people. I didn't fully understand it, and I could not stand working at a corporate gym very long because I felt like I was so pressured to sell people and meet these sales quotas, and it took away my passion. So a year later, I went on my own as a personal trainer, and I went from literally like $200 in my bank account to like 10 grand almost overnight because I decided to go on my own. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge, huge turning point for me. It was huge because just because I made a decision, I didn't think that it was possible. But I wanted it so bad. And I decided like, okay, this is going to be it. And I took that leap, but through that process, I had to learn a lot still, a real lot, especially when it comes to money mindset. I was so excited to have all this money in my bank and have it flowing in. I was training my clients at this really posh studio in Soho, New York. And I was scared because I was like, I don't know how to handle all this money, or I don't know how to keep getting clients and whatever. So it fell all from underneath of me within like a year and a half, all of it. And I had to start bartending again. And I didn't have to. I felt like I had to. And I did. And I had to pick up all these pieces and rebuild my whole shit. And through this process, I was doing a ton of personal growth work. I was doing a ton of spiritual growth work. And that's when it really happened. Like I started to finally shine my spiritual side. And that's a side of me that I always hid because like, I didn't want people to think I was weird or whatever. And, I was brought up Catholic, all that shit. You guys know probably like how that goes. So once I let that part of me out, then I realized, oh my God, like I need to be doing this, or like, this is the direction I want to go. And it kind of just unfolded from there. My art came back in the form of my jewelry, my pendants, and like me coaching people with mindset and growing their business. Obviously, I'm really passionate about business because I had like a million ventures. So that's why I'm so passionate about helping spiritual entrepreneurs grow their business, because I made so many freaking mistakes and learned so many lessons. And mindset is everything. Like there's no rules. There's strategies, but there's no rules that are definitive. It's really all comes down to your mindset. So that's my story in a nutshell. Not my life story, my business life story in a nutshell.
Oh no, it's so good. And I mean, that's 100% like nail on the head, because you can have two people that are doing the same strategies, but their mindsets are totally off from each other. And one is going to be like crazy successful, and the other person's going to be like, what the hell? I'm doing everything on the list. I'm checking off all my stuff. You know, what's going on? And so that is huge. And that's, I mean, whenever you said mindset is everything, we're reading through your bio, I was like, these women need to really understand that in a big way, because sometimes we do simple things, we tell ourselves certain things, but we don't really have our mind in it in the right place. And so, yeah, I think that's amazing. And that you followed your nudges, you kept following the nudges to go from one thing to the next and to the next. And yeah, very cool.
And looking at and what you were saying too, where it almost felt like the rug was being pulled out from you, and you're like, but there's another thing that's going to come, and there's another thing that's going to come after that. And it's just so beautiful for people that feel like, oh, now what? Like, why is this happening right now? Like you said, from having all the clients to then losing it, and then now what? Okay, well, the universe is like, well, we're ready for the next thing. Let's go on to this next lesson. Mm-hmm. And you've had, I don't mean to like deviate from where we're going, but you've had such amazing, the three of us have watched you just blow up. Like, your community has just completely blown up. How does that feel for you? Are you just back there going like, oh, this is amazing? Like,
yeah, I am. And it's funny because, like, part of me like expected this to happen way long ago. So when everything fell from under me, I went through like I kind of like really lost myself for a minute, like a long minute. Like, that's when I moved to Austin. I was like, fuck this shit. I'm moving. I need to get away from everything and just like go on some adventure. So that's when I moved. Oh my God, I forget what the question was.
Your group.
Oh, your group growing.
So yeah. Okay. So ADD, and I'm holding my selenite so I don't lose focus. So my group, like I started that when I was in Austin, actually. And I just wanted to create a community of like-minded people to just share my message to, like I needed to get my voice out. And I always have been since I was personal training, I built my audience with my fitness stuff first. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to share my message and bring these people together and empower people. I was about to say I had no idea it would grow like this, but actually I did. Like, that was my intention. But I didn't expect it to happen like as quickly as it did. I've had the group for like about a year and a half now, but it wasn't until June. It was around June that it hit like 2,000 members. And now there's like 20,000. There's like 1,000 people on the wait list, like that I need to go through. Have people help me with, but yeah, like it's really awesome. And I try to keep the vibes as high as I can in there. It's definitely getting more challenging since there's more people. So that's kind of something new that I'm learning how to navigate.
Yeah, I can't imagine with a group that's like that big. And I saw you kind of revamp the little promotion rules a little bit to kind of keep things more like aligned with like the high vibe and not salesy stuff going on for like days and days. So. Yeah,
and I didn't want to do that actually because it helped me when I was growing my community to show up in other Facebook groups and promote stuff. But I shared a lot of value in those groups, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was always showing up, and unfortunately not everybody does it that way. Right. And also I didn't realize that 20,000 people, that's a lot if you have a day to promote.
Yeah.
It lasts like 3 days. And for new people coming in, I want them to see what the group is really about. But I wanted to have a compromise. So people, I'm going to have like a thread or whatever for people, but it's really a place, I teach, if you show up and you share your message and you share value, people are going to be attracted to you either way. So
yeah, absolutely. That's good. And you're kind of teaching as you go. You're protecting your group, but you're teaching them kind of like the better way to go about promoting their business at the same time.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yay. So I know you talked a little bit about like kind of coming out of the spiritual closet, so to speak, I guess. Were you always spiritual? Is that something that you just kind of learned over time? Because you said you were brought up in a Catholic family. Is that something that you just kind of broke away from to find that spiritual side of yourself? Because I do know, like, I mean, I wasn't always this, super spiritual either. Like, I was like baptized Lutheran and kind of, I mean, when I was younger, my mom used to go to like tarot readings and do all these things, and I was like, why are you living your life psychic that you don't even know? Like stuff like that. And now that's like how I live my life. So, I mean, I ask my psychic friends about everything now. So, but where was like the turning point for you where you really kind of like grabbed onto that spiritual nature of who you really are?
Well, I've always been into it since I was like around 14.
Right.
I was, like I said before, I was in an abusive relationship around that time. And so like for some reason, there was just, I felt that something outside, like I wasn't looking for something external necessarily, but I felt like something outside of me was helping me. Something, angels, spirit guides, whatever. I felt like that was the only place that I could go. And also, I was very into like, learning different rituals or things that I could do energetically. Cause I was like, man, like, magic, but I didn't really know what it was or whatever, like, I just felt like, man, like there's gotta be some way where like I could make this happen or I could, get myself out of this, whatever. So I was always into it from a very young age. I think maybe it stemmed from my dad. Actually, he told me about a psychic he went to when I was like 10. And I started going to psychics, here and there at a very young age. And now he's like totally not into it at all, but whatever. So one of the psychics I went to, actually, she was telling me how to heal my heart. And like, she taught me like kind of how to meditate. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like meditation. And then I started getting like so into like learning everything. I'm not even joking. I was 14 and I had a freaking library of books. I was like, oh my God, chakras. We have all these energy centers. Like, oh my God, like we have an aura. And, like I was so fascinated. And spirit guides, what is that? Like, I was so freaking fascinated. My mom was kind of against it because she, was really Catholic and stuff. And so that's what drew me to angels. So I've been doing like angel stuff since that age. Like I felt safer working with angels because like maybe my mom could understand it more also. And like, I didn't really know. So I really, really got into the angel stuff, angel cards. I got my first deck of Doreen Virtue cards when I was like 15. That's a whole nother story because she is, changed a little bit. But I've always been into it, but I locked it away after I left the abusive relationship because I feel that what I was doing got me out of it. That's when I got my 1111 tattoo. Like that's not when I got my tattoo, but I started seeing 1111 all the time then. Can I share like a really quick story?
Yes, please.
So one of the first times I meditated, I was trying to meet my spirit guides, right? And this meditation was so real. Like it's so real, guys, that I literally can remember it like it's a memory. And like, I'll get teary eyed, like it feels that real. So I was in this meditation, I was trying to meet my spirit guides or whatever. And this bright white light came up to me. I was like sitting on a bench in like this beautiful garden. And she came up to me. I didn't see her. I just saw this bright white light. And I asked her name and she said Celeste. And the only thing I thought of was like the frozen pizza, because like I didn't know what Celeste meant. You know what I mean? Like it didn't click. So I Googled it and it means from the heavens or heavenly or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, this is so weird, but I need another sign. And so I asked for another sign in waking life. And that's when I started seeing 1111 all the time. So much that, it just was ridiculous. So I Googled it and I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And I was like, okay, I need one more sign, just one more, like oh my God, this is the sign. And I went to work to my 9 to 5 at the time. I was like, maybe, I don't know, 17 at that time. and I parked my car, went into work, blah blah blah, came back out in my car, and my cross necklace was on the middle of my driver's seat that I haven't seen in months. Like, I had no idea where this necklace went. I wasn't thinking about it. I didn't see it in the morning when I went into work, and it was right in the middle of my seat when I left. And I was like, okay, all right.
There was your sign.
My sign. I'll stop asking for signs.
They're like, how big of a sign do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
So do you communicate with Celeste then? Like, when you're gonna go into meditation, or if you're like seeking guidance, do you ask her to, I don't know, like come around, or?
Ooh, you just gave me goosebumps. That must mean I probably could do
Good. She's like, bring me back out.
No, I actually really don't. I feel like I talk to the angels in general. Like, I'll call upon them or whatever, or write letters to them, or the universe, both, whatever. But it was kind of like after I left that relationship, I kind of like, I don't know why, but I stopped doing all this stuff. It was like I got what I needed, and I like forgot about it. I don't know why. Like, then I went through my whole party phase. Like, I went through this phase of like just going crazy, like not going crazy, but just doing everything I wanted to do because I felt like a slave. And like, I don't know, I was just went through that phase of, when you turn 21 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got back to it once I started personal training again. Because I felt real off. Like, I was just doing not good things for myself. And once I started helping other people, I got back into it. And it really, really took to another level when I started working with the plant medicines, like ayahuasca.
Nice.
Oh, that's bucket list. That's been coming up. That came up for me. Have you guys all seen the Pyramid Code? Rosemary recommended it to me, but have you?
No. So good.
Go binge on that. Like, it's worth like a TV binge. But it came up again in that. So you've got to tell your story then with ayahuasca, what that was.
It's so funny. I talked about this on someone else's podcast. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't talk about this so much. But I've done it many times. And, initially I was like, I'm not going to do that. That's crazy shit. Like, oh my God, but I didn't realize, like, I realized actually once I did do it, it was, for me at least, and this isn't the case for everyone obviously, but for me, it was what I've been looking for my whole life. Like, it was definitely the thing that's been pulling me my whole life, I believe. But my experience with it, like, I don't even know where to start. Like,
do you feel like, okay, this is just totally off topic, but do you feel like you're high, like smoke weed? Is it, because isn't it like just this consciousness opening? Like,
yeah, so the way I explain it, well, I'm going to try to explain it. It's basically like your ego is very, very quieted down, basically non-existent. It's still there in a sense. There's different levels of, this is the best way I can explain it, is there's like different levels of like consciousness. So when you're working with the plants, specifically that one, at least since in my experience with it for many times that I've done it, I've realized how these different levels work. Does that make sense? Like, sometimes I'll be going through something within my own energy, like maybe some inner child stuff or stuff from my parents. Maybe I'm like working with something that I like lineage wise, like healing something in my lineage, or maybe it has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my family, but it has to do with the collective or, whatever. And that's the really cool stuff in my opinion. Like, that's like the coolest stuff ever. Cause I'm like, oh my God. Like, and then I like realize all this stuff and I don't even know how to explain it. Cause there's like not really a way to explain it. I'm like, oh, so this is how it works. And like, this is always evolving. And like, we're doing all of this stuff because we're trying to raise the vibe of the planet and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't really know how to explain it in the best way, but yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But it has like a bad stigma around it. Why do people get all weird and like hushy about it? Like, what?
Well, it's not legal in the US.
Well,
But
stuff not legal.
not that, but people get so scared about it, I think, because they read other people's stories about it. Like, if you're not in the right mindset and you're like really heavily ego driven or whatever, or you really have a lot of shit to work through, then you might have an experience that's a little rough. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really
overwhelming, I guess.
Yeah, overwhelming, or maybe you're not letting it go or something, or you know what I mean? Like, I've done a lot of personal development work before I even started with that. Not saying that you do need to be in a good place. So I think people get scared off by other people's stories, and you should never do that, because everyone's experience is totally different. No one's experience is ever the same. You probably will experience some of the same lessons or similar realizations, especially when it comes to the collective stuff, but it's still different based on like how you interpret it. You know what I mean? Like, we all kind of interpret things a little differently, just how we all share things a little bit differently, you know? Also, people get scared of like throwing up, which you don't throw up every time you do it. I only have like once. It's really not that serious, and I hate throwing up.
And I mean, that's nothing to be scared of, is throwing up. It's not like going on some kind of permanent trip where you can't come back into reality. I mean, that's scary.
That's pretty much take control of you. I mean, like I say you're in control, but you're really not.
But you eventually come back. You just have to know that
you do
find your way back.
Yeah, and it's, you got to learn how to work with the plant. You know, the plant spirit. Like, if you're working against it, it might be a little rough, more like it might be rough or whatever. But in my experience, it's always been absolutely beautiful. And I like to ask questions, you know, and sit with it and see where it takes me, you know.
Yeah. Well, it sounds very cool. I have to look into it.
Are you normally like in the middle of the woods doing this, or is it? I always picture like it's super.
Well, it's like meant to be done, I guess, like in the jungle in Peru. But when I went to Peru, it was like they have like this little hut thing called like the Maloca, and you are all laying in mats or whatever in there, whether it's in the jungle or there's the place that I did, it was not. The other place is just like, you know, someone's house space, and you just, you know, make it high energy, not high energy, like the right kind of energy, like set, like cleanse the space, like set the energy and intentions. And it's also really important about the other people who are there too, like with you. You know what I mean?
I would think so.
Well, people that are tuned in right now, please let us know if you have any questions.
If there's any comments.
Stephanie, no.
Michelle said a lot.
Michelle said something. She's like, does our consciousness open at the levels that we're ready to see or understand?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, it might, maybe it does open up, but you might not get what it means or whatever. Like, it took me a few times to realize certain things. And actually, like a couple times I've asked the facilitator of these groups what this could mean, because he's been doing it for 20 years plus years, and I was getting this message or whatever about like how we're really supposed to live life here, you know, like we're free and we really have all of these abilities to do anything, like to heal people with our mind and you know, communicate with our mind and stuff. And I started realizing, okay, so then what is the thing that's controlling all of us? Like, what is the thing that is in control? Like, why aren't we living like that? What is behind it? You know, I was wondering, what the hell is it? Yeah. And it was the simple answer that he said, it's ego. And the collective ego, because ego is the human part of you. You guys know that. So the ego stores all of the trauma that we've been through, all of the pain, and it gets passed through our DNA energetically. So even if it's something that you know, you haven't been through, but it's something your freaking grandma been through. Because I went through some grandma healing shit in these ceremonies too. I had, you know, it was very profound. So it's just interesting, like the levels of things you can experience and open up. And this isn't the only way to do that. You know, you can still get to these places, I'm sure, in like deep meditations and stuff, but this is definitely a faster way to probably get there and open that channel up. And also I feel like ever since working with the plant medicines, I've been a lot more creative. Like that's when I just came back from Peru. All right, I started doing my crystal jewelry a couple of years ago. It's just a hobby, you know, like whatever. I came back from Peru and I started pumping out these pendants. Like I was like, I've been doing it for years, and like I didn't even know how I was doing it. And I swear, I feel like it's because I opened up some sort of channel to be able to do it in a better way or whatever. Like just, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that.
Doing that, you're helping others heal, because when they have them on, they're experiencing the energy.
Yeah.
Like it's just love, 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 you know, multiplied, keeps spreading.
Yeah.
You guys have all got to check out Pyramid Code. I don't know why it's like binging in my mind right now, but
because I'm gonna write it down. I don't
forget. They talk about this in there, and they talk about how we're sort of coming out of this, you know, everything's in a cycle, right? Like as women, we know we all go through these cycles, but the earth goes through cycles with seasons, but there's also you know, we go through dark times and we come back into lighter times, and it's very cyclical both ways. And so as we're coming out of this darker time, the Pyramid Code talks about in 2012, there was this shift. And you guys have probably all felt this in 2012, where it's like all these people start talking about meditation, and yoga becomes more of a thing that's spoken about at the dinner table or whatnot. And all these people in their spiritual awakenings, where now it feels okay to come out and start speaking about these things. It's phenomenal. I highly recommend. It should be like a when you turn 30 years old prerequisite to hear.
Oh my God, I'm excited to read it.
It's a series on
documentary.
Netflix.
Oh, it's a documentary. Oh, I thought it was a book.
No, it's a documentary on Netflix, and it goes over. It basically is a documentary of the Egyptians and like the different pyramids and why they were built certain ways, and like where they were super spiritual, like very, very connected. But it's really interesting because it was just like they talk about like the feminine and the masculine and all this stuff, and I was just like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
I thought I was crazy because I don't normally like, I'm not a documentary type of person, but I was like fascinated because it was amazing what they were talking about, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is what we're teaching like right now. Like this is so like, it's just crazy that it's all like that.
Stay up tonight and watch it.
Well, you like the first 2 episodes. The first 2 are like, why were they built and what are their chambers and blah blah blah. But then you get into like,
I'm totally watching this tonight too.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what you think.
There's only 4 of them, right? There's only 4 episodes.
Or 6 maybe, 5. I don't know. It's not. I mean, they're both like 40.
But it's good. Yeah.
They're really good.
Oh, okay. So Billy wanted to know what planet was again.
What was that?
The plant.
Oh, ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, yes. I was like, I'm missing
mushrooms, wachuma, like, but that was the ayahuasca is the main one.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, I just was reading some of the comments.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't know where it went. Ashley asked something. I saw it. She said, she asked, like, do most people go through their awakenings when they're going through a dark time, or is there a correlation?
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe, that because we're meant to actually face those dark times so that we do wake up.
Yeah.
Like we chose to go through that shit so that we can be propelled onto the spiritual journey. Yeah. That's why I was in that abusive relationship, because it was like, oh my God, you got to wake up. Like, you know, they wanted me to wake up earlier. I wanted myself to wake up earlier on or whatever, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because before I went on the spiritual journey, really started it, I went through a really, really shit time for like 6-7 months or so. And it was terrible, but I needed that though. Like, actually it was more like a year really, but it kind of went in like stages. But I needed that to get to where I am now. So I definitely think that's a huge part of awakening. Is it's really when we ignore the nudges that we keep on getting, and the more we ignore them, I feel like then we finally are pushed into this like really hard stuff that we are faced to deal with, because the universe is like, okay, you've ignored us long enough. Here you go. Now wake up.
If you've ever seen her been like diving into, it all comes back to your soul contracts that your spirit and your soul decides to come into when you come into this life. And it's going to do what it needs to do and have the experiences it needs to get to higher consciousness as fast as possible. And so if you hit like that wall, or you hit that twin flame, or you hit through that really shitty time in your life, and you keep going back to it and going back to it until you can learn from it and move through it. And so it's, I mean, it's hard to know some of these things, because sometimes we go through some like really traumatic events, and for us to say, I signed up for this, I chose this, you know, that's a hard thing to accept, but it's catapulting you to like the next plane and the higher level and the higher level. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
We often talk about the masculine and feminine energy in our group here. And it's sort of ironic, because I'm kind of like, tonight we have beautiful Stephanie here talking about feminine energy, talking about ayahuasca, all these awesome things. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking to 3 guys that are super spiritually awakened. So kind of getting like the vibe this week of let's dive into this a little bit more with this masculine and feminine energy. So as a business owner and managing 20,000 people in your Facebook group, and probably more outside of that community, how do you balance your masculine and your feminine in your business?
To be honest with you, it's still quite a learning process for me. I feel like I really need to become more aware of certain things, certain times when I'm like, you know, in a different energy. The way that I get balance in general is like, I need to learn how to pull away when I need to. Like, I started to recognize how I feel when it's time to take a freaking break, or it's time to go outside, or when it's time to just like dance around in my living room or create some jewelry or whatever. So I just really start to pay attention to how I feel like when I'm working on my business, and how I feel like when I need to take a step back. I'm not like, it's funny, I'm a Libra, I'm all about balance, but I'm like not always balanced. I'm always striving for balance. So
I think we all are. I think it's like you get your balance down, and then something else happens, and you're like, shit, gotta figure out how to balance that too. And it just keeps happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is something that we love to ask the women that come in here, and I think everyone's going to be really intrigued for the answer that you're going to bring with this. But what is your next right move? Whether that means tomorrow or 2018 or whatever it means to you, what's your next right move?
My next what?
Right move.
My next right move?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, you can take it however you want, but I guess, what do you see for yourself as being the next move that you want to make? Are you bringing out any courses? Are you doing retreats? Are you doing kind of within more personal work, you know?
I have a lot of things that I am striving to do, especially in the next year. I want to do more live events. So I'm actually doing my first retreat in March, which actually is a spiritual healing retreat. It's not a business retreat, it's spiritual healing. So you guys know what it may entail. So I want to do more live events. And also, like, I've been working on a book for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 books, actually. One's more of a workbook, but I really would like to finish those. I kind of took a break for a minute because I just felt like I needed to. And also, I feel like I am still learning some of the lessons that I'm sharing in that book on like a more full scale, you know. I'm not like saying we're perfect or I need to be perfect before I write this book, but the things I'm sharing, it's kind of coming out of me as it does. So those are just a couple things. And I want to create a membership site for my community, like where I can work with these people in a more intimate level than the 20,000 people group. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where I can like really give them like VIP content and really help them on their journey, not just their business journey, but with mindset and spiritual growth. I kind of want to have all three things. That's in the works right now.
Oh, that's very cool.
I know that's a lot of things. That's a lot of right moves.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so needed. You're finding the needs and you're meeting them. I think when you have a group that big, you know, people really crave that one-on-one, you know, time, and there's no way you can give it to such a large group. So yeah. That's going to be very cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that is so cool. Well, is there anything else before we go that you wanted to hit on, or any advice that you can give any of these beautiful ladies in this group of them moving forward in their business, anything like that that we didn't hit that you'd like to talk about before we head out?
Just to keep following your intuition, follow your heart, and lead with your passions. Because I know a lot of us, especially like us healers and coaches and stuff, we're multi-passionate. We often like get confused about what exactly to do and when. So just lead with your heart and lead with your passions and let it evolve as you evolve, and just trust that you're on the right path. As long as you follow like your inner guidance and do the things that you love, you're going to get where you're meant to go. But you have to continue to work on your mindset too, and just stay true to yourself, because you're on the right path and you're meant to do big things. You're in this group for a reason. You're connecting with these people for a reason. It's because we're on the same mission. We're on a similar mission to raise the vibe for other people, to make the world a better place. Like seriously, it goes really deeper than you can maybe imagine right now in the 3D world. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Gave me goosebumps too.
What?
That's true though. I mean, I always say that, like, honestly, I like from the bottom of my heart when I talk to people, I'm just like, I just want people to know that this is more than just us, you know, like having a business. This is really about raising the consciousness and the vibe of everybody, the collective, back into that loving space and connection with the universe and this and your spirit guides and spirits in general, you know, your own spirit, for crying out loud. I think so many people are so disconnected. So I love that you said that, because it's so needed and really important, you know, and we're lucky enough to be like connected with so many amazing people, but not everybody has that, you know, that privilege. And so I feel really honored that I even am surrounded by like people that get it. You know? Like, you know, like
seriously.
It wasn't always like that, you know, so it's really great. It's really good. Well, awesome. Well, we just want to thank you again, Stephanie, for coming on the Rise and Shoot podcast. It was such an honor, honestly, to have you, and so grateful for you to be here. But where can we find you? Where can I try to get in touch with you? We know the Spiritual Boss Babes group, obviously, but is there any other way for them to contact you when you have coming up?
Yeah. Well, my group, obviously, yes. And also just spiritualbossbabe.com is my site. I have like a lot of resources on there, free resources in there for business, mindset, spiritual stuff. And my Instagram at the Spiritual Boss Babe. I'm always showing up on there, posting fun stuff. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for
being here. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
I'm glad we got to connect. I feel like you're like my soul sister BFFs now.
We'll have to just like retreat together and like meet up.
Yeah.
In 2018.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like ayahuasca ceremony now.
Yeah. I think we're all going to sign up for that for sure.
We'll be like our guru. We'll be like, okay, Stephanie will be there. She'll keep us safe.
Yeah. My husband's gonna love that. He's gonna be, where are you going? Well, I'm just going on a spiritual healing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be so awesome.
That'd be so cool. I'm all for it.
Well, let's cap it off here, and thank you again.
Thank
So
you.
ladies, thank you all for tuning in tonight, catching this live session. As you guys know, this is our Wednesday night, our Woo Woo Wisdom Full podcast, where we have weekly speakers come in and share their beautiful knowledge with us. So thank you again, Stephanie, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you again next Wednesday night.
Yay!
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.